Alright, hello, welcome back everybody to the podcast once again. For anybody who's new, obviously as the word podcast implies, it's primarily audio content, so the only thing that's really going to be on the screen is this troubling lumber price graph chart. As always, if anybody wants to support me or help me out, PayPal and Patreon links are both down in the description below and in the top pinned comment. So lumber prices have ended up not actually sticking to any particular trend, as the chart clearly displays. Now, for anyone unfamiliar, this is the lumber market trading chart. So this is the lumber futures traded on the market, traded in units of 1,000 board feet. And since I know the people who usually end up on these videos, at least ever since the first one, are people who regularly buy lumber at stores, the actual lumber product prices that you see when you buy stuff yourself, they do follow these prices because these are the prices that the distributors paid for it from the source. However, on a price lag, on a time delay of several months, which is how all commodities traded on the market work. They're traded in futures. It works on a price delay because primarily it takes a while for whatever the resource is, whether it's lumber, oil, or metal being mined out of the ground. It takes a while for whatever the commodity or resource is to be extracted and then stored and then shipped and then processed, refined, or milled in the case of lumber, arranged and categorized, potentially stored for a little bit, then shipped and transported to the initial buyer, the large-scale distributor. Even for lumber, there's a lot of intermediate steps from when the tree first falls down in the tree farm or the harvesting site to when an actual finished piece of lumber actually ends up on a shelf in front of you to purchase. And like I said, it's basically the same for most of the commodities, so that's why they're traded in what you see labeled as futures, because the price you see on the market being traded is for lumber or insert any other commodity that's going to be getting received by the purchaser several months from now, which is why, although you can see on the chart market lumber prices peaked for the first time, they hit their first all-time mega price record back around August, early September, but everybody on the consumer end didn't see the all-time record lumber product prices until late October and then throughout November. That's because of the several month delay. And so after that, lumber prices collapsed pretty sharply in terms of their market trading prices, and they did stay like that for a little bit. So it was looking like everyone was going to get to see drastically reduced prices after several more months from when product prices hit their peak. However, then, instead of that being your future, over the past month and a half or a couple months, this pattern has developed. So now, if you are buying stuff, just change the relative numbers and the label of the unit of whatever you're buying. And this pattern here is now apparently what is going to be your price future that you're going to see. Is this sort of violently unstable roller coaster ride of rising up rapidly to a new price record, dropping abruptly by a significant amount, and then jumping back up almost just as rapidly to another new price record, which was just hit today on the day of recording this. At least in market prices, it was $989 per 1,000 board feet, whereas the previous price record set back at the first price spike in August was about $964, and before that, the highest price lumber had ever reached on the market was 2 or 3 years ago, in which it got up to a bit above 600 or into the lower 600s. And if you are one of those people, in terms of relating market prices to what you would usually see for product prices, normally in present day, under whatever you would consider normal conditions, lumber has usually been between $350 and $400 per 1,000 board feet on the market. So whenever it goes out of that range, which it has been for over the past year now, whatever the number multiple beyond that range that it goes, you can then multiply your product prices by that, expecting to see at least that multiplicity of a price. Granted, it's not actually going to be a one-for-one translation. You're going to inevitably see it more than just that, because by the time it gets to you, transportation cost has also been added to it, and also whatever store or yard you're buying it from isn't just going to sell it to you for the exact value that they bought it for because they're trying to make money. So they're going to at least add a few dollars to it, obviously, because they kind of have to. Now, there were actually reasons for some parts of all of this stuff that's happened, namely the first big price surge. That actually made sense. There were actually reasons behind that. These more recent roller coaster mounds that are coming up, those are a bit less directly tied to anything. For the first price surge that happened last year in 2020, that was because of a combination of things. The first one obviously being, that thing that happened in 2020 that did that whole spring global shutdown thing. Some regions in the U.S. Kept all their lumber operations open. Some regions, particularly out in the West, shut it down for a month or two. And also, despite the tariffs, a decent bit of lumber does get imported from Canada, and a lot of mills in Canada shut down during that spring period too. And that coincided, of course, you should remember, with the whole toilet paper depletion attempt. And it wasn't just toilet paper, it was also, tissues and paper towels and everything else. So that shot up lumber demand at the same time that a bunch of stuff was shut down. And then after a couple months, for the places that did shut operations down, they started them back up. However, a lot of them only started them back up at like half operating capacity. And they continued like that for a while, for quite a number of months, which doesn't work well, obviously, when you're trying to play catch-up with not just regular demand, but also the effects of a demand surge that came particularly from the depletion of all paper products on every shelf, and then particularly for the western states, around July or so, that special season started where, everything burns to the ground, and everything burnt to the ground, so a bunch of them had to shut everything down because the wildfires were getting way too close to their operations. And then also, unbeknownst to a lot of people, a decent bit of lumber actually comes from some of the southern and southeastern U.S. states. There are actually a lot of tree farm operations down there, and the southeastern states sort of got locked into this pattern once hurricane season really got going. Basically, a storm would come through every couple of weeks or so and almost take basically just the same path as all the ones before it, and they would keep sweeping through every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, and every time one comes through, the operations, have to shut down for a week or so, and then once they start again after the storm is gone, they have to spend several days sort of undoing damage and clearing everything out before they can actually start clearing trees out, healthy grown trees that they can actually use for lumber. And all of this was also compounding with the fact that despite everything happening last year, construction was still going on, and the slated schedule that for the most part is being stuck to for last year and these upcoming 2 years has apparently been the highest rate of housing construction in the U.S. since 2007, I think they said it was. So last year in 2020, this year, and next year in 2022, it was and is expected to continue to be a bit over 1 million houses built each year. So all of that was added together and made lumber prices jump way up past the previous record, up to $964. However, around the middle of September, the contract rolled over, and they were then pricing for lumber that would be purchased in November or December, by which time they were expecting most lumber operations to be back up to regular speed, as well as hurricane season would be over, as well as they were expecting the wildfires to be suppressed by then, and as well as times 3, during winter a lot of the housing construction usually slows down, and also for as well as times 4, regular non-construction industry lumber demand, or lumber demand from individuals, had kind of, utterly plummeted with the price surge. So when the futures pricing contract rolled over for pricing around the start of winter, the futures prices at least crashed because of all those things that they were expecting to go together. That leaves us at where we're at now with this pricing roller coaster, the second two bumps of which are still upcoming for actual consumer and product prices. Alright then, that's it for this one. So thank you everybody for sticking around and listening. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't already. Like I said, you can help me out or support me via PayPal or Patreon, links down in the description below or in the top pinned comments. Only do so if you actually can, mind you. But no matter what, may God bless and protect you all, and I will see you all around next time.